When I tell you, I am literally so excited for this video because everything that I'm about to share with you guys has changed my life for the better. All of these little tiny changes that I've implemented into my day-to-day routine have honestly just helped me so much when it comes to balancing my hormones, correcting my gut health, and honestly just helping myself after getting off of birth control. For those of you that don't know, I got off birth control 4 months ago, so I'm currently on my post-birth control journey. My hormones were out of whack. I was just out of whack, honestly, and I didn't really know what to do with myself. I had been on a gut health, hormone health journey for the past year, but since getting off of birth control, I feel like I've just had to restart this journey, and I've re-implemented all those habits and routines that I did last year within these past 4 months, and I am literally bouncing back. I am so much happier. I am so much more energized. I am less bloated. I am less inflamed. I feel like I'm like getting back to my normal self again, and not even my normal self. I'm becoming my most optimized self. Whether you are on a post-birth control journey, whether you have gut health issues, whether you have hormone imbalance issues, or honestly, if you just want to improve your life, I think these habits and these swaps are going to do just that for you. So let's just go ahead and get right on into it. But before we get started, I do want to just quickly say that I do not promote restriction in any way, shape, or form. You will never hear me talk about restriction or cutting things out of your diet on any of my social medias, whether that's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, literally anywhere. I will never talk about restriction. This is all about making healthier lifestyle changes. These are all about like making those small little improvements, small little changes in your day-to-day that are going to help you get 1% better every day. And that 1% better is going to compound over time to get you to where you actually want to become, to helping you feeling like your most optimized and happiest and healthiest self. I'm going to talk to you guys about maybe finding some swaps or some alternatives or some healthier choices for you to make in your day that will help you overall with your gut health, your hormones, and honestly just yourself in general. I obviously had to make my little afternoon matcha, but this kind of goes into the first tip that I want to talk to you guys about. One of the first changes I made when going on this journey was swapping coffee for matcha tea or water. I'm not saying that I never drink coffee, because I still like to go out to coffee shops and get a matcha latte, but for those of you that have to have coffee, for those of you that have to like have a coffee in the morning or whatever it may be, I definitely recommend you to start eating something before you drink your coffee. You might find yourself like getting that anxious, jittery feeling. Most of us quote unquote say that it's like, oh, we have this energy. That's honestly just the coffee messing with the acidity of your stomach. The coffee is so acidic and it messes with your stomach bile. By putting something into our system beforehand, whether it's like a small breakfast, like a yogurt, a granola bar, maybe a fruit or something, that will help coat our stomach with other stuff so that when it starts processing the food in your system plus the coffee, it's not as harsh on yourself and or on your hormones. With that, coffee in general causes our body to be in this fight or flight stage. Since that coffee has that caffeine in it, since it's meant to give us this energy, our body gets put into this state of stress, and that honestly raises our cortisol levels. So if you're having coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning when our cortisol levels are already high, adding that coffee to it is going to increase your cortisol levels even more. And if you don't know, cortisol is your stress hormone, and we want to try to keep that cortisol level at bay. That way we're not as stressed, we don't see too much inflammation in our days, which is why I've been switching to matcha tea or water. I do still drink coffee, but this has honestly just been a great alternative. It kind of mixes things up a little bit. The next change I made, and this is honestly a more recent change that I actually started at the beginning of this year. On January 1st, I decided that I'm going to do a dry January, and basically that means that I'm going the entire month without drinking alcohol. I've been working with a naturopath on the side with a holistic health doctor that's helping me balance my hormones and my gut health, especially since getting off that birth control. We did an intensive examination of my blood work, seeing what vitamins are low, what hormones are out of sync, how my gut microbiome looks, and so much more. And one of the things that we talked about was alcohol, and how alcohol is honestly just so inflammatory. I've never been a huge drinker. I do like going out to the bars and having a cocktail or 2 or 3, but honestly in college, when I felt my most inflamed, that was when I was going out to drink Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and I was just constantly binge drinking, and it was this repetitive cycle week over week over week, and then waking up and having that stress and anxiety of what did I do last night, what did I say last night, and all of that. And that goes back to the cortisol levels. I'm focusing on keeping my cortisol levels low, at bay, and controlled so that I'm not as stressed in my day-to-day, which honestly helps with inflammation so much. I'm not saying that I'm just going to be completely sober the rest of my life. I just wanted to do this little challenge with myself to see if I see any differences within this next month. Honestly, it is day 12 and I feel great. I have gone a few weekends just hanging out, and I started to find other things that I like to do on my weekends. I like getting out there and not necessarily having to feel like I have to go to a restaurant or a bar and be drinking. There's so many different social things and events you can do that don't involve drinking and won't stress you out the next morning, because that was one of the things I hated, was just waking up and just being so stressed and anxious of the night before. Definitely a change for me. It's a change of pace. Obviously, I still have like alcohol in my house, but it's not something I'm tempted to touch, and it's not something that I'm tempted to go grab and drink. With that, when I was growing up, I was a major soda drinker. We always had Coke, we always had Sprite, and we always had ginger ale and Fanta in our house. Every day after school, I would come home and grab one of those cans of sodas. I was drinking maybe a can a day, plus a little drink at dinner, and then when I would go out to eat, I would always order a Sprite. Sprite was my favorite drink. It was just so good. When I was traveling and I was on airplanes, I was always ordering a ginger ale. I don't know why. I feel like ginger ale just tastes 10,000 times better on an airplane versus like in any other setting. But I'm honestly trying to cut back on refined sugars and syrups, and obviously soda has a lot of sugar and a lot of syrup in it. Not necessarily that I'm trying to cut down on calories, because that is not my intention with this at all. I'm just trying to like cut down on the amount of refined sugar that I'm putting into my body, because that also causes acne and clogged pores, and that's something that I experience a lot since getting off birth control. So I'm trying to clear up my face by not adding too much sugar into my system. But if you are a major soda drinker, I love the brands Olipop and Drink Poppy. They're honestly my favorites. I always have Drink Poppy stocked up in my fridge just for me to grab it and go. My favorite is honestly the strawberry rosé one. It is so good, and honestly, make it fun. Especially now that I'm not drinking alcohol, I will pour my Drink Poppy in a wine glass. I'll put some ice, I'll pour in the little soda alternative, and it is just so good. It makes me feel so like fancy and fun, and it just makes your night a little bit more enjoyable. I've been doing that while doing like a spa night and doing a face mask and really prioritizing my skin and my happiness. The one thing I love about Drink Poppy is that it's actually a prebiotic soda, because it has apple cider vinegar, and I know some of you guys might be like put off by that, but it actually does not taste like apple cider vinegar at all. They have natural sweeteners in it versus refined sugars and syrup in it, so it's a much healthier alternative, and it's honestly just such a fun way to change things up, still give you that flavor of soda without actually consuming soda with so much sugar in it. The biggest change I made was starting to sync my movement and my nutrition with my menstrual cycle. So if you don't know what cycle syncing is, it's basically, as females, we go on a 28-day schedule. So our menstrual cycle, even though our menstruation period is about 4 to 8 days, our menstrual cycle is a 28-day cycle, compared to guys and males who revolve around their circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour cycle. So their cycle ends after a day. Our cycle ends after 28 days, which honestly is why a lot of times when we are working out with our partner and eating the same thing as our partner, you start seeing them have more immediate changes, and you're like, what is going on with me? I'm doing the same movement, I'm eating the same thing, and nothing's working. It's because our cycles are two very different cycles, and we need to start following our own internal cycle versus the 24-hour cycle that we're so accustomed to. And breaking this down, basically we have 4 little internal cycles within this 28-day period. Our menstrual cycle, which is when we get our period, is day 1 through day 5, basically up until the end of your period. And the way I've synced my nutrition and my movement with this is that when you're on your period, you kind of want to take it slower. You want to relax a little bit more, and this means going on walks, resting and stretching. Honestly, this is a period where we want to focus on resting, restoring, and just making sure we're taking care of ourselves. When it comes to food during your menstrual cycle, you want to focus on fats and omega-3s. This can include salmon, sauteed spinach, sweet potato, wild rice, ground beef, hemp, and flax seeds. Obviously, there's so much more foods, but those are just some basic things that I like to make sure that I'm getting into my body. The next phase is your follicular phase, and this usually usually goes on from day 6 through day 13. This is when you have a ton of energy. So you just finished your menstrual cycle and now you're like rebooted almost. It's almost like a new you. You have all this energy. You want to get up and move. This is when you feel your strongest. So the best type of movement to do during this cycle is running, cardio-based HIIT workouts, strength training, because you're able to lift heavier, you're able to run for longer. The types of foods that I make sure to get into my system are leafy greens and fiber. We want to supplement our body with all of these foods. This includes arugula, avocado, salads, chicken, pumpkin seeds, eggs, asparagus, and lentils. Once we move out of the follicular phase, we start moving into our ovulatory phase. This is the phase that usually is from day 14 through day 17 to 18. It's probably one of the shorter phases, and this is when you are able to actually get pregnant. A lot of people have this misconception that you're able to get pregnant literally every single day of the year, but it's really just this short little phase that actually is when you have the highest chances of getting pregnant. So this is also when you're still feeling strong, optimized, and energized. You can still continue with these high intensity movements, but you're gonna have to start taking it slower, because towards the end of this you start slowing down your energy. So this is when you can still do some HIIT workouts, some kickboxing, some running, some Pilates. And as for food, this is a great time to continue fueling your body with fiber, such as with steamed broccoli, cauliflower, tuna, yogurt, cucumbers, white beans, and matcha. And then lastly, our luteal phase. This is the longest phase of your cycle. This goes from day 18 usually to day 28, and this is once you start having to take it slow. If you realize, we start at the menstrual phase, we have to kind of take it slow, then we reach the follicular and we're gaining this energy. You reach the ovulatory and you start slowing down, and you reach the luteal and you have to start plateauing, getting your body ready for menstruation again. So this period is honestly so different for everyone. It depends on who you are, your PMS symptoms, and how you're feeling up until your menstruation. This is when you want to start taking it slower, being a little bit more relaxed, and not focusing on those high intensity exercises. This is a great time period for yoga, Pilates, some strength training, but not as intense, as well as hiking is honestly just a great thing. I love doing my hot girl walks during this period. I feel so great. I feel so energized, but it's also just great to get outside, get some fresh air, and get some vitamin D. This phase is honestly amazing to get in potassium and magnesium, such as sunflower butters, bananas, dark chocolates, quinoa, spinach, walnuts, eggs, zucchini, and salmon. And when I tell you, I've been cycle syncing for the past 4 months, so since getting off birth control, because I wanted to put my birth control symptoms at bay, because getting off of it, your body is out of whack. I was on it for 9 years. My body no longer knew how many hormones to produce, what hormones to produce when, and so that's when you get all these PMS, post-birth control symptoms, such as acne. Some people experience weight gain, weight loss, hair gain, hair loss. Everything's just a little out of control. But by following this cycle syncing method, I was able to kind of put those at bay, supplement my body with the foods, nutrition, and movement it needed when it needed it the most. And honestly, the biggest change I noticed during this and within the past year was just calming down and relaxing. I used to be like this cardio bunny. I was on the treadmill every day for an hour a day. If I wasn't doing that, I used to be an Orange Theory member, where I was going to 4 to 6 workouts every single week, and it was just very high intensity. I was constantly running, I was lifting a lot of weights, I was exerting so much energy, but not supplementing, not allowing for rest. I thought one rest day was good enough, when really my body was like signaling me to slow down, take it slow, to relax, but I didn't pick up on those cues because I wasn't in sync with my own body. Once I stopped those super high intensity workouts, and once I started realizing that 30-minute low intensity workouts are honestly the best way to go, especially as females, I saw less inflammation, less bloating, less acne. I had more energy. I just felt better. I felt lighter. My clothes fit better. I didn't even attempt to lose weight, but the weight started coming off just because my body was in a state of relaxation instead of having this high cortisol levels literally all the time. This next one is something that I try to prioritize every single day, but it's to lessen my screen time and put on do not disturb. I follow my 9 to 9 rule, which basically means I'm not on my phone from 9 p.m. all the way up until 9 a.m. This gives me the chance to kind of get my eyes away from that blue light, because that blue light kind of keeps you awake and it doesn't allow for restful sleep. It pushes me away from my electronics and it forces me to do other things, whether that's read, whether that's do a face mask, whether that's just find any other activity that promotes self-care. I like to journal, I like to meditate, I like to manifest, all during the nighttime. And since I do it up until 9 a.m., I typically wake up around 6:30 to 7 in the morning. So I have all those hours in the morning off of my electronics, which allows me to have a slower start to my morning, allow me to actually enjoy my morning and not just be immediately thrown at my face like all this content that I don't actually need to go through. And that goes into the next one, which is to prioritize sleep, prioritize rest. I aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, usually around the 8-hour range. I honestly find myself feeling the best when I do get 8 hours of sleep. If I get anything less, if I get anything more, I am just not the same. I'm not as energized. I'm kind of more groggy. Sometimes I'm more moody and stuff like that. Around 8 hours is like my perfect sweet spot. Creating a wellness unwind routine. So every night I go through a similar routine where I just focus on wellness, I focus on myself, and I focus on getting myself ready for bed, also helping out my future self. So I like to start my unwind routine around 7:30, 8 p.m. where I'll start making a tea, I'll journal, I'll put on a face mask, I'll ice roll my face, I'll put on my pajamas, I'll moisturize my body. Then I like to prepare myself for the next day. I'll make my to-do list for the next day, because typically you already know what you're gonna have to do tomorrow. So help yourself out and make your to-do list the night before. I honestly like to keep it to a top 3 to a top 5 priority list, no more than that, because I feel like when you add more, you just bring more stress, anxiety, and overwhelmness to your life than you need to. I'll also set out my workout clothes and my regular clothes for the next day, the night before. I'll have them on my dresser. I'll charge my headphones if they need to be charged. I'll put out my sneakers if I'm gonna go work out. I obviously wash my face. I do my entire skincare routine. The purpose of all of these things is to tell you that you don't necessarily have to cut things out. I'm still promoting balance. I'm still adding these small little changes that don't take up that much time in your day-to-day routine. I'm all about having this nice balanced life rather than just implementing things that don't really fit or align with your lifestyle. So if any of these things that I mentioned don't align with you, don't add them if you know it's going to cause some resistance in your life. Also, with that being said, don't expect big changes to happen tomorrow. These things take time. It took me a while to realize that my gut health and hormones were out of sync, and to start fixing them, it took me a little bit of time to actually get into a rhythm and a routine of knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But this is why I don't promote dieting, because I feel like with diets, everyone's like, oh, do this for 2 weeks and you're gonna lose X amount of whatever, or you're gonna do whatever this. That's just never gonna work out. The point of all of this is to make it a lifestyle. There's an example I love to give all the time is, do you like to read or are you a reader? One of them is just somebody that reads every now and then. Someone else, the reader, that person is embodying reading. Reading is part of their actual life. So do you want to make health and wellness just like something you're interested in, or something that's actually a part of you? Basically, the point of all of this is that we're making these small changes every single day to make this compounding change for the rest of our life. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to learn more about how you can continue healing your gut health, your hormones, and making your life 1% better every single day. And with that, I'll see you guys in next week's video. Bye.